Hi, this is Jerry A. from Poison Idea, and you're listening to the Nothing Shocking podcast.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dogbowl Studio is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on X at No Shock Pod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Big Strix Vital Records and Sports Cards, located in Rock Island, Illinois. New, vintage, and previously owned. You can find it at Big Strix. We'd like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Jerry A.Lang
of Poison Idea.
Just recently recorded a single with the band the Hard-Ons, and they went back in, did enough songs. They got a full-length album coming out and a tour.
Hey, let's get to that interview.
All right, good night.
Good night. Jerry, welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'd like to introduce to you my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Jerry, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
We are so excited to have you, and thanks for rescheduling. Thanks to you for being so flexible. So let's get right into this. You've just finished the vocals for the Hard-Ons' new upcoming album. What can our fans expect from this new endeavor? And tell us a little bit more about it.
Well, I've known the Hard-Ons for years. We worked together in like the 1990s during the grunge thing. They were around. They were, Poison Idea was playing. The Hard-Ons were playing. We met on the road. We toured a lot together. Our drummer, Steve Slayer Hippie Hanford, produced one of their records, and they asked if I wanted to sing on a song for their record. And this was, 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so I sang on one of their songs. And then they said, well, let's come down to Australia and play. And they did this big festival in Australia called the Big Day Out. And it was a giant festival with like Iggy Pop and Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds and Sonic Youth and all these bands. And Mudhoney was on that tour. And all these bands played. And I just went down there and just got completely obliterated just like every night. It was like, that's what you thought rock and roll was supposed to be back then. I mean, here was Iggy Pop, and so I was just getting smashed every night. And the Hard-Ons were like a rock and roll machine, they could not stop. They were a machine. And we played the whole tour, and, I did the one song with them on their record, and that was it. And then afterwards, years later, when I kind of sobered up a little bit, it took me years to sober up. When I finally sobered up, I was I kind of blew it in a way, because I had this opportunity to really have a great time, and I just was doing like bar tricks on stage, like, I don't know, throwing ping pong balls in cups and drinking beer and doing all these stupid frat boy things, while the Hard-Ons are just like the MC5 up there, just blowing doors off the place. And, people don't get second chances in life much, and years later, they said, well, you know what? We're going on tour with Napalm Death and the Melvins of America. Do you want to sing with us? And, I was like, I got a second chance, and I did it again. And it was great. And so we recorded a single, and that came off really well. And they said, you know what? Let's take it to Europe and do a whole album and take this tour to Europe. So they wrote another album's worth of songs. I wrote the lyrics to them. I got them. Lived with them for a couple months. The songs, made them my own as much as I could, and I'm getting a second chance doing it again. It's like I'm really happy that I can do this. But you know what? Let's get up on stage and let's pull out the old party tricks again and do it all over again.
Very cool.
Would that be something to do? Just go up there and just fuck everything up all over again.
Very good. Yeah.
Well, was the single you're referring to? Was that "You Won't Shut Up"? That was released on 7-inch vinyl.
Yeah. That's the one we did last summer, like last June, with the Hard-Ons. I did that one, and that was, that went to like the #1 single in Australia for that week. And I don't know what that entitled. That maybe they sold 10 copies in Australia and it went to #1. I don't know what that means in Australia, but it was got a great response off of it, and I like the single a lot.
Yeah,
and
me too.
So they said, yeah, let's do it again. So most of the songs, like 7 of the songs, are pretty much in that rockin' Hard-Ons vein. But then the guitar player Blackie wrote some. He's like, let's throw some strange things in or do some really crazy, like I don't know. They're almost like birthday party-ish, then like a weird Australian rockabilly, because Australia is kind of like the Old West in a way, like with the Cosmic Psychos and Beasts of Bourbon and all that stuff. It's they're kind of like cowboys down there.
Well, as your legacy will forever be Poison Idea, can you talk a little bit more about the transition vocally from your time in Poison Idea to that of your solo endeavors and the stuff that you're now doing with the Hard-Ons?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was the first real band I had when I was, 16, 17, 18. And then, my first band, it was kind of like watching me grow up. And you take the records from Pick Your King is what, 17-year-old boys sing about, like, police, drugs, all this crazy stuff, just like punk rock, 100 miles an hour, 30-second songs, punk rock stuff. And then as we changed and grew up, you can kind of see the progress, I guess you call it,
yes,
or the growth. And it followed us into like getting older and getting into other things and experimenting and learning how to tune our guitars, learning how to play faster, and just digging a big hole and painting ourselves into a corner. And then we just all self-destructed. And out of that band, there's only like me and Myrtle are like the only people around anymore, are still alive. Everybody else passed away. And so we had to, I had to just like kind of chill, basically, and you can't keep doing that. So, Poison Idea was, my baby, and I don't know, we made a decision right before COVID, like 7 years ago. Towards the end of Poison Idea, we were, I just said, I want to just go out. There's been a lot of people, like we played a festival in Texas 15 years ago called, what was it, Fun, 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 and we did a Chaos and Chaos, and these shows just sucked. We really were, we're still pretty alcoholed out, drugged out, and the shows sucked. And like I said, when I kind of sobered up, I felt kind of bad about, having this band that was so good and having such a great legacy, and then looking like a bunch of clowns on stage. So the last year I said, I got everybody together and I said, listen, man, just give me a year. Promise me we'll get a year of just tightening up and kick-ass shows like we used to do. So I got Chris Carey and some old people that I played with for years that were on old Poison Idea records, and we went out. We did a year. We toured Japan, we did Europe, we did New York City and stuff, and we did a whole year of shows, and we kicked ass. It totally kicked ass, and then we made a decision to stop and to quit. And recently I've been thinking that I don't know. For one thing, there's nobody left. I couldn't get back together and do Poison Idea anymore because there's nobody left to do Poison Idea with. I don't want to, you see Greg Ginn doing Black Flag, and that's like, I do not want to do that. Yeah. But I don't know. It would be fun to play those songs again. Because I wrote those songs, and and they're great songs. But the Hard-Ons are great. The Hard-Ons, and whatever I do, I played with a band in San Sebastian called Black Bacon, and they did some Poison Idea songs when we played live. I jammed with this band in Amsterdam called Kings of Oblivion, and they're just like street punk, just great. Those guys are animals. They're such a great band, and it's fun jamming with other people and doing other stuff. And so I don't know, I've learned to never say never, but people say, will you ever play with Poison Idea? And I'm going, well, you know what? I never say never, but tomorrow I'm going to be playing with the Hard-Ons.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, we were talking about the single earlier. I love the B-side, Dead End Turnaround. Can you talk a little bit about, like you said, there were 7 more songs, and what can fans expect from the rest of the songs?
Well, the Hard-Ons definitely have a style and a sound. They're a really good band, and those songs sound like that. It's something about Australia. Australia sound, you have Radio Birdman, The Saints, The Birthday Party. Like I say, then the other wave with the Cosmic Psychos, and the punk bands. But the Hard, and now with Civic, the Chats, all the new. Where are the Viagra Boys from? Are they from Sweden?
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, there's just all these bands, and the Hard-Ons definitely are like flag bearers. And there's a documentary in Australia called The Most Australian Band Ever, and it's a big documentary, and it's about the Hard-Ons. It's like, you have these immigrants that basically represent the Australian dream, and they represent Australia, and they just proudly. They're such a great band, and so these songs sound like the Hard-Ons. The songs sound like the Hard-Ons with me screaming over the top of them. So if you like the single, it's basically the same thing. But what I say, it's we're kind of experimenting a little bit. We're maybe slowing one song down and going out and trying to do something else. We're definitely not going to do I Was Made for Loving You, Baby by Kiss and go in that direction.
Right.
But it's fun to mess around and to it's we don't playing the same thing over and over for years gets kind of boring. But I'm really happy with it. Honestly, I wouldn't be doing it if I wasn't having a great time.
Fantastic.
Well, how did you guys do the recordings for this album? Did you guys get together, or did you share tracks? How did it work?
Well, we did all sorts of stuff. We did meet before the last tour. We met halfway. We met in Minneapolis and got a place there and played in a studio. You can Zoom. You can actually with headphones on your laptop and stuff. You can play in Zoom, But we just send files, musical files, listen to them, and you could play in your bed sit, as they say, and do it that way. So it's that's kind of the way I Poison Idea used to do songs anyway. I would write down a riff and put it on my little Panasonic cassette player, and then go to practice, and we listen to it and play along with the guitar, and then you do it that way. It really hasn't changed. The technology's gotten better, but it's basically the same way we always have. And now you can bounce back things, with the phones.
Yep.
It's it's like the Jetsons, you can see in real time. You could play, you can have your phone set up filming it in real time and play. So
that's fantastic.
So yeah, it's there. It's not nothing. It's not AI.
Yeah, that's fantastic. With the new Hard-Ons album soon to be released, what can you tell our listeners about the tour support of it? Is there a tour planned? And if so, what are we going to be looking for you guys coming to the United States, or what's the whole deal?
Well, we just got done mastering it, and the tour starts in June. So today is April. So we're going to be cutting it really close. But again, with technology, it's not like the old days. We can do an album in 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything's mastered and ready to go. It's just a matter right now of getting, the pressing plant, and you can press a record in 5 weeks now.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, so we're going to do that. We have like 2 or 3 options for record plants. And that's the thing. If we wanted to do it within our budget, we could, it would take 3 months, and it would be, ideal, or we could put a rush on it, and it's going to, we're going to pay for it.
Right.
But it'll be done. But, we're flying into there in Australia. I'm in Portland. I'll see him in Hamburg, like at the end of May, and we'll jam for a couple days in Hamburg, and then we're starting there and going to like Berlin, Copenhagen, Stockholm, Helsinki, and doing a bunch of shows for like 2.5 weeks. So I want to play. I love being in my home country. Playing with the Melvins last year was a blast. They're amazing, and we did that tour. And then right away, as soon as we announced this one, people in Australia are, what the hell? Why aren't you guys coming down here? So they were like, do you want to play in Australia? And I said, yeah, of course I do. So, first things first, let's do this one. And, I don't know if I'm going to be able to actually in June. I don't know if if anybody be welcoming me, from being American.
Well, hey, that's okay.
Well, yeah, I know. Well, I'll do a good job of representing the United States. I'll be like the diplomat.
The biggest question we have is that are you guys planning on coming to the States and doing any shows in some of the bigger cities like Chicago?
Yeah, I'd love to. I would love to, and that's the plan. It's just let's first things first. Let's get this out of the way, and then let's because the album's going to be out, and it would be defeating the purpose if we didn't play to promote it.
Absolutely.
We did all this stuff to make this beautiful piece of art, and then not to do anything with it. That would be an art statement in itself. That would be very, very Dada-esque to make something and then just destroy it.
Yeah, for sure.
I think you had said that you had toured Australia before. Can you talk about?
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I did, like I said, we did the Big Day Out tour.
Yeah.
And it was, like Helmet was on that tour, Mudhoney, the Beast Suburban, Iggy Pop, Sonic Youth. So it was
awesome.
It was a really big festival. It was giant, like stadiums and stuff. But the Hard-Ons, they can hold their own on a stadium. They held their own, man. They would play in front of thousands of people, and they blew the roof off the place every night.
Well, I guess other than traveling there, is there any other logistics or any other issues you got to work through to make the tour happen?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, that's the plan. That's the plan, is to come back over here. And when they were here with the Melvins and Napalm Death, they were having a few clubs were being kind of with their visas and their paperwork and stuff. Like in Seattle, they played this club, and the promoter just goes, "We're not going to pay you." And they said, "Well, what the hell?" And they said, "Call the police." It was like really strange. It was like people, you hear about these assholes in the music business, and they're still there. They're still there. It's like, wow, there's really people. There's villains in the world.
Absolutely. I remember watching that Anvil documentary, and they're in Prague, and they played some small club over in Prague, and the owner wouldn't pay him. He wanted to pay him with like a dinner or something. Backed up on him.
Wow, it better be a big dinner.
Exactly. Let's get into the next topic here. Your record label, American Leather Records, was established back in the 80s. The label is still in business, strong to this day. Some of our listeners might not know the history of American Leather and its day-to-day operations. Can you talk a little bit more about it?
Sure. It's, we are a DIY label. We do it ourselves. I do the mail order here in this room. Thanks to social media and stuff, like Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's basically our whole camp. That's our advertising budget. We just put out stuff when it comes out, and word of mouth. We reissued all the Poison Idea albums from the first one. I mean, we have like 40 some titles right now. So, I mean, we did all the Poison Idea stuff. I signed a bunch of bands that I like we did a compilation, and we had this band from Portland, Jenny Don't and the Spurs. We did Toxic Holocaust, this band called Eyelid. Just did a bunch of bands. We did this girl Monica Nelson and the Jack London Trio. We did a band from Atlanta called The Abusements. And recently, when we played in Bristol years ago, I loved Bristol punk. I liked Vice Squad. I loved Amoebics. I loved Chaos UK. I loved Disorder. Mm-hmm. And going down there and meeting these people, we were like fans of the music more, and so we got to meet these people. And I saw through Facebook that Disorder was playing with their old singer Boobs, and I wrote their bass player Taffy, and he's like, yeah, he had an analog tape of the concert with their singer. And so after 30 years, they're really tight now, and the things sound amazing. It was basically Disorder's greatest hits, like the first 4 albums, mm-hmm. the first 4 records. And it was really, really good. And so I'm like, well, I'll put this out. And he's like, go ahead. So I put out the new Disorder record, and it's, so, and we were, like I say, it's DIY. People order records, and I sit here in my house, and I put them out myself and stamp them and take them to the post office. And some people kind of get, they think it's Amazon because they're like, hey, I ordered these records 2 weeks ago. I should have them by now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I was out of town or something. But that's the bad side of it. But the good side is you're guaranteed every time to get stuff with your, personal stuff. We're always putting in, like, some records. Well, I'm looking over here. So I have a bunch of these records, Latest Will and Testament, and I have extra ones laying around or screwed up old test pressings. And I'll stuff the packages with other records. So people get, packages, and they get stickers and records and test pressings and, all sorts of crazy stuff. I sent a record out the other day, and I had Alice Cooper's $1 Billion Baby sitting on next to me, and it had inside of the $1 Billion Babies, they had these cards, these Alice Cooper cards,
yes,
with the Glenn Buxton and Neil Smith and all these guys. And I took all the cards and I added them in each record. I gave everybody like Alice Cooper cards.
Oh, cool.
Like from 1974. So all these people. So people had, just like little gifts and stuff. And so that's fun. It gives it a personal touch. And I'm not Amazon, and you're not going to get it the next day, but you're going to get like, special things. And it's personalized, and it's, and always sign little things and give people, cool stuff. So it makes me happy.
Fantastic.
Let's talk about, I know you're working with the Hard-Ons right now, but in 2022 you had your first, at least on your Bandcamp solo page, you had the album From the Fire into the Water, and you had worked with several different bands on that. I think each track featured a different artist. Can you talk a little bit about the making of that album and working with some of the different artists?
Sure. Just over the years, you play with different people, and I had some extra Poison Idea songs laying around in the can that we never put out, and I did a bunch of projects over the years, and so I just compiled them all and put them together. And since I did that record of just basically all these different, I played with like Soft Kill, which is kind of like an electronic band. They're, kind of newer, kind of like Killing Joke. And I did all these other projects. But since that came out, I did something with this French band Vanilla Blue. I'm doing something with Hank Palm, who played in Ghost, and he played recently in the Viagra Boys. Mm-hmm. Doing stuff with him. And so, it's like I don't know. I don't feel like, now that I have a chance to work and to take off running, I'm going to do it. I'm going to keep running. I love doing it. So, that's, like I said, for years and years, I was just kind of just wasting away, and everybody was just, in a kind of like a drug-induced coma. And once you snap out of it, you're just like, hey, I got, I like to do this stuff. This is what I was born to do. I like to do this, and so I'm going to keep doing it. And, the solo record was just, I did stuff with Paulie from Sheer Terror and just all my buddies over the years. And I'm just like, wow, I got all these songs I did with all these people. I'm going to just scoop them all up and put them out on a record. And it's crazy because it sounds like a 70s variety show, You got here's the Osmonds, and here's Black Sabbath, and here's, and it's like, here's Lawrence Welk, and there's Hee Haw, and there's this and that, and there's like, it sounds like all this crazy mishmash but it flows really good. The whole record flows really good. There's no turds on there.
So cool.
It sounds great. So yeah, it's crazy. It's, variety is the spice of life. You can't, it's not going to be like a straightforward, like a DRI record with just a bunch of, 100-mile-an-hour songs. There's all sorts of stuff.
Well, it was super cool.
We want to get to your book. Black Heart Fades Blue is volume 1 of the 3-part memoir of your life. The book is now being released in Italy. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's, what they when I submitted the book to the publisher, it was way too long. It was, he goes, this book's like, whatever, 2,700 pages or whatever. And I said, yeah. I said, is that a lot of pages? And he goes, yeah. He goes, it's like, way too much. So he goes, we're going to break it up into 3 volumes, the first, second, and third. So if you're in a store and you pick up the second volume, it starts in the middle of my life and it ends towards, and you're like, okay, what now? So I was never really, really happy about that. But this guy in Italy is like, you know what? I want to translate it. He goes, I think that these Italian people will really dig your sense of humor and your rhythm of your writing. And they asked my publisher, and he's like, yeah, go ahead. We're not selling any of your books in Italy anyway, so I'm not losing anything. So this guy's, his name's Luca. He runs a press called Garganta Press, and he's got a bunch of books out. But for him, it's kind of just like a mission of love. He's doing it. He translated it all. He's making them kind of like boutique covers, really nice silkscreen hand covers, and I used to collect a bunch of, I have like some old different books, Hemingway books and John Fante and stuff like that. And I like the old, like, the old Bukowski Black Sparrow books, which with the silkscreen covers and stuff. They're kind of like records. They're kind of like collectible records,
Mm.
And so I like that he's doing this collectible Italian book. I'm not going to be able to read it, but I like it. I think it's really cool. I mean, I got some books. I got some Bukowski books in German, and I can't read them, but I like them. They look cool. That's my collection. Well, kind of like having like Japanese pressings of records,
Absolutely. I guess the second part of the question is, you have volume 2, volume 3. Can you just talk a little bit more about, the transition of you authoring your life story in book? How did it work for you? Was it easy? Was it easy transition for you?
It was therapeutic.
Yeah.
It was therapeutic writing it down. It was like, like I said when I gave the intro to it, it was kind of like a deathbed confessional. Just getting everything off my chest and saying everything. And there's some really, really hardcore stuff in there. And there's a part in the book where I write too, and I said all these people who, if you think that I'm bullshitting you, you know that I can say more. I'm not saying these things. I'm not saying things that could, probably get people in trouble. But I'm not saying these. I'm kind of holding my tongue, but this is true. And so, it's a pretty hardcore book. But the thing is, the book stopped right when Tom passed away. And that's a long time ago. That's where the story ends. The story ended there when Tom passed away, and then I met my new wife, and that was 7 years ago. So 8 years ago. So that's where the book ends pretty much. And since then, like my friend Luca, this publisher, he's like, man, there's like your life's changed, but you keep doing these crazy things keep happening. Like every day you're out living and things happening, is that you should write about the new stuff. You have a good way of writing, and you should write the new stuff. So I sat down and I'm writing the new book.
Oh, cool.
Oh, so exciting.
Yeah. It's like I say, it's therapeutic. It's good to do that. And, I started writing that way, and I'm writing for Cream Magazine too now.
Yeah. As we say that, go ahead, tell us a little bit more about working for Cream.
Well, that just it's weird. It came naturally because I did the book, and Cream contacted me and asked me if I wanted to do a story about like an unheard classic. Like, what if there was a record that I could pick that probably nobody knew about, that like I would think was a classic? And I said, well, like what genre? Like there's so many records. People always go, are you listening to any new bands you really like? And I go, well, I'm listening to a lot of old bands that I didn't know about from there's like, you hear stuff, there's thousands of bands, man. There's thousands of records. So I wrote the first story for Cream was about a Johnny Rivers record from the 1968 when the psychedelic thing was coming in. Johnny Rivers, the guy who did Secret Agent Man?
Yes. Yeah.
That song, yeah. So he released a psychedelic album in 1968, and it's probably one of the best records. It's kind of a cross between the Zombies, Odyssey and Oracles, and Love Forever Changes, and it's just like, it's really good. It's not like he's not being Johnny Rivers of a 60s crooner, faking the psychedelic. He's just taking the psychedelic, and so it's just, I wrote a story about that, and Cream goes, yeah, you're right, this is a brilliant record, so what else do you know? And so I was like, well, there's this band in Seattle called the Gits that they never really got their just dues, and I think their first record was brilliant, and go ahead and write about that. And so, then I just started going on and just writing about lots of bands. I think the Sham 69's first record was on a major label, and no one really, Joe Public today, 21-year-old kid doesn't know what the hell that record was.
Brilliant album. Brilliant.
Yeah. Tell Us the Truth. That's a great record. That's a really, so there's a lot of records. I wrote about the Australian X, the band from X from Australia. They were, again, had that Australian sound going on, and the guys in the Hard-Ons said that was the most insane, violent show they ever saw when they were kids. They were like scared. It was one of those shows where they were just terrifying. The whole feeling of my article I wrote was pretty intense. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of stuff out there. So, and I get to stand on my soapbox and spew my bullshit, and I can get away with it.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah, I love it.
Back to Poison Idea just a little bit. I mean, you had alluded to having lots of releases that you did when you reissued stuff. You had the albums, you had multiple EPs. You guys also had a few live albums. Can you talk a little bit about the live recordings from Poison Idea? Is there one in particular that's your favorite?
Well, you know what? We did on American Leather, we started doing these like Blue Note series because these tapes started resurfacing of old, like our first show we ever did on New Year's Eve 1981. From 80 to 81, our very first show. And it was a piece of history, and, people should hear it. So we released that. It's called Pearls Before Swine. And it's really interesting. And then we have ones with Tom playing, with Pig Champion. And then we have, we would go to Europe and we'd have like Dutch Courage. We have maybe, honestly, we probably have like 10 live records out. But the thing is, they're all different. They go from our very first show to the very last show in France we ever did. And that show in France was really cool because our friend, we had like the president of our French fan club was a big Poison Idea fan. And we played in Paris, and it was his birthday. And so we said, well, for your birthday present, you write the set list tonight. Whatever songs you want, any song you want. So he wrote all the Poison Idea songs that we never play, and like songs from, pretty much he picked songs from every different record and presented us with the set list. And it's like, for my birthday tonight, this is what you're playing for me. So we recorded that. That happened. There happened to be a soundboard, and the guys had a, reel-to-reel. And we released that as the last show in France. And that was a really, really good show. But see, Tom was already out of the band by then. He passed away. And we could release a box set of live records, and it would be from the very first show to the very last tour and all the stuff in between with Hanford and Mondo and Myrtle and just all the guys at different lineups. We have all different lineups. So we have one from Portland where we played, I don't know if you're familiar with the place called Voodoo Donuts.
We've heard of it, yes.
Yeah, it's a donut place, but it was started by these punk guys that lived here, and they ran an all ages club. The first club in Portland where like Green Day played and stuff. And they wanted us to play an office party. They had a yearly office party, and they're like, will you play our office party and do a bunch of covers, do like some Magazine, Johnny Thunders. We did a couple Queen songs, all sorts of stuff. And they're like, sure, we'll play. And so we recorded that, and we called it Company Party. We did a live record. So yeah, you know what? None of the records are like the Germs live at the Whiskey, None of them are like that. They're all tight. They're all kind of like Motorhead live at Hammersmith,
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
They're all kick ass. And so, yeah, I'm proud of everyone. So, yeah, that's the thing. Like I said, they go from the very, when we were 17 to 40 years later.
That's so cool. Got one last question for you, then we'll leave you alone for the evening as we're running out of our allotted time. I want to bring this back to your writing for Cream and covering different albums. And I got an album that I think you'd really like to check out. And that is an album, the band is Milltown, and the title is Tales of Never Letting Go. And it's from the lead singer from Jonah Jenkins of The Only Living Witness out there on the East Coast. We interviewed Jonah back in the fall, or it was like late summer or something like that. And Milltown was just getting ready to release this album. And it had been sitting on a shelf, what he said, since 1990.
Yeah, it was like 30 years.
Yeah, they finally got it back so they could release it. And he sent Jeff and I the album before it was actually released digitally. And it absolutely blew our minds. I'm like, I can't believe this is
new and fresh and
unbelievable. I mean, it is unbelievable how fantastic that album. I told Jeff after I listened to that album, and I went ahead and bought it on vinyl, what have you. That is the best hard, heavy metal, punk, whatever you want to call this album the best album I have heard in that genre in a long time. I mean, I can't even explain to you. You're going to have to listen to it. And then
what does it remind you of? What does it sound like to you?
Well, he's rooted in hardcore, okay? But it's not a hardcore album. It is far from it. You know what? I'm just going to send it to you. How about that?
Okay, so Eric, listen, or Jeff, when I hear Milltown, why am I thinking Seattle? Was there something in Seattle one time called Milltown?
Coffee. Milltown Coffee, right?
No, I'm thinking of a band like from like Whidbey Island or something at one time called Milltown.
It could be. Well, this is Milltown with one L, and I'll just go ahead and send you the link.
Okay.
And it is absolutely fantastic. I mean, it is knock your britches off type fantastic. And
nice.
I think that you would be astounded by it. And I mean, Jonah is a very intellectual human being, and to listen to him sing and then listen to him interview is like, wow, the intelligence through his music comes right through as the person, or vice versa, whatever you want to call it. But it's absolutely brilliant. You need to check it out. And
I'd love to. You know what? I love being turned on to new stuff. Like I say, there's so much old stuff, which is really great, but I hear new stuff all the time. I hear, I just got that Slovenes.
Haven't heard.
I got there's some, I think they're from Ohio. Poison Ruin.
Yeah, these are some new ones for me.
Yeah, man. So like I say, there's so much new stuff. Warthog from New York City.
Yes.
There's so much new stuff. The latest Cream I actually wrote about a new artist that I liked, and at the end of the article I said, this is what I'm listening to today. Boom, 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 boom. It's like Cindy Lee, which is like this really crazy indie, almost shoegaze stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This. I'm like, there's so much new stuff. But I would love to hear Milltown. I'd love to hear that.
Well, as soon as we're done with talking to you tonight, I will send it to you immediately. But
nice. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, we're out of our allotted time for the evening. Is there anything that we left off tonight that you would like to plug or promote?
Well, I think we talked about most everything that's going on today. Tomorrow there'll be other stuff happening.
Right.
But we can always come back and do it again later.
Well, we appreciate this interview opportunity.
Yeah, thank you.
This is how things are going to work out. We're about 2 to 3 weeks behind on our episodes. But Jeff will clean up all of our boogers, and we'll make us sound like $1 million, and we'll send it to you, and please share it to all your socials. We are so thankful to have you on tonight.
Of course. And like I say, let's keep in touch and do it again.
For sure. Jerry, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate it. Yeah, and like I said, I'll send the link to you with Milltown on it, and then I'll be back in touch with you in a couple weeks. Sound good?
Eric, Jeff, it's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Take care.
You. Good night.
Thank you, guys.
Good night.
Cheers.
Bye.
Just can't